Are you looking to take your personal finances to the next level? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, with your host, Joseph Sangle.
Well, welcome to the Money Tip Podcast, presented by Fully Funded Life. My name is Joseph Sangle, and I am fired up to help you, yes, you, live a fully funded life. And today, I am so fired up for episode number 229 to have a special guest. It's November 21st, but the day we're recording this is on Veterans Day, and I'm interviewing a vet. My special guest today is David Hendershot. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be here.
Well, as we get started, tell us where you served.
I served in Martha's Vineyard in the Coast Guard, Cape Cod, and then Japan, and then what would you call it? Go on leave.
Yeah, there we go. I like it. That's awesome. When you were in Martha's Vineyard in Cape Cod, it depends on the season you were there. Were you there during the summer, or was it wintertime?
I spent a year at Gay Head on Martha's Vineyard.
Wow.
A year on Cape Cod at the east end of the Cape Cod Canal.
That's a beautiful place.
And then I went to Japan for a year, came home, took 2 months of off. Leave.
Yep.
And then went back for 3 weeks and got out.
And finished up your 4 years. That's awesome.
4 years.
And I'm so excited to have you as part of the podcast. One of the things we love to do is to bring to our listeners other voices other than just mine. It's one thing for them to hear the success story that I've had, but I love to bring other voices so people can hear other stories. Other stories of how they've prospered financially, other stories of how they've seen God move in their life. And I thought you would make a perfect guest. I've kind of bothered you for a little while to be a guest. We finally pulled it off. So maybe we could start off by having you share a little bit of your story.
Well, I can go back. What am I, 52 years old
You're
now?
52 years old.
52 in Hex. I started working when I was 16. Worked for an old Pennsylvania Dutch pig farmer.
Okay.
And then I went into the Coast Guard for 4 years, came back out, worked for my dad for a little while. And I was working for an engineering professor from Lehigh University. Actually, it was Lafayette University.
Wow.
And I was working on a garage door, and he asked me if I liked my job. And I said, I learned about everything I could do. I learned overhead garage door controls and stuff. And he said, IBM's looking for people like you. And I said, who's IBM? And 6 weeks later, I was working for IBM. And that started I was an electronics technician in the Coast Guard, so that started my career with IBM. And I worked for them for 22 years with a 4.5 year time that I took off to go to work on a youth ranch for 3 years, and then go to Bible school for 2. And then I went back to IBM, went to the plant in Boca Raton, spent 10 years there. And then I took the early retirement to 55, the bridge, which was the last one IBM gave. And then I was out of work for about 6 months and went to work for a network up in Chicago for 13 years. And then they were bought out, and a year and a half later, they were bought out again. And I got laid off. And, of course, now I'm 70. No, I'm 68.
68 years old.
Yeah, 68.
Still wanting to work.
Yeah, well, I had to work.
Still needing to work. Okay.
Yeah, when that was in the downturn.
Yeah.
And
2011, you mean? 2008, 9, 10, 11?
2008,
yeah.
2006, we moved down to our house in Florida and put our house up for sale that July. And then it didn't sell for 3.5 years because of the downturn. Mm-hmm. And in 2008, the company I was working for was bought out by a competition, and they settled on Thursday, and on Monday they laid everybody off. Whew. So I was out of work for about 4 years, had a couple software development contract, a couple months at a time, that were good paying, and that gave me some money to go through. But I was running with 2 mortgages and a HELOC.
Woo.
And
a down economy.
down economy.
And trying to find a job at 68.
Yeah. And didn't work out too well. But since my life is controlled by the Lord, he just kind of moved things along and kept us going. And then Sharon saw this, that's my wife, saw this advertisement for Automation Direct in Cumming, Georgia. And I put in for it in October, didn't hear anything until January. In February, the first Monday of February is when I started with ADC, and that's just about 11 years ago.
Wow. So that was in 2011.
2011.
And so...
Actually February 2012.
So you've served as an electronics technician, an engineer, a software specialist, and plant facilities help. But along this way, you took a buyout from IBM. Just to explain what that means for people who are listening, that means they basically bridged you to the retirement pension?
That's right. When back in 89, 88, IBM was starting to downsize, especially in the plant. The Florida governor had made a decision to do a 10% VAT tax. IBM said, if you don't cut it out, we're leaving. And they did. And then I got a bridge to retirement. I was 52 and a half, so I bridged to 55 and got out. And I had to stay there until the end of 83, or 93 rather. And then we moved to Illinois, where I worked for a wireless network, being a developer of diagnostic tools for wireless devices.
Okay.
So that's where I did a lot of work in software. And actually, it's interesting. Everybody knows about a BlackBerry.
Oh, yeah.
I did the initial system testing.
I loved my BlackBerry.
I did the initial system testing on the precursor.
Bring it back. I need the BlackBerry Curve back. The little trackball was awesome.
The two fellas that I worked with at Research in Motion, they're retared millionaires.
Yeah, they are. Those Canadians, they did really good with that. So, basically for our listeners, I'm talking to a genius who's had a lot of experience in a lot of stuff that we may not know about. But, you had some financial setbacks along the way. You had a bridge to retirement, which means you didn't get to really retire on your terms. And then you went to work for someone else. And then there was a layoff in the middle of the great financial recession where everybody remembers what happens with house prices. Your house was in which state, Illinois or in Florida?
Northern Illinois.
So house prices in that area collapsed 40, 50%. Can't sell them, maybe underwater. Tell us the feelings that you had in that time period, that 3.5, 4 year time period. 2 mortgages, a HELOC, 68, trying to find a job. Kind of describe those feelings that you felt.
I don't really know.
You blanked out?
I really don't know. No, it's I look back on those 4 years and somehow the Lord took us through the whole thing. And he'd give me enough work, and I was doing handyman work, and I'd get a little bit here. I'd get enough just to pay my expenses and maybe have enough to buy groceries for the week. And I was a little worried because, there's going to come a time when I'm not going to be able to work. And being, in my almost 70, late 60s and early 70s, I was beginning to wonder, who's going to hire somebody. And I had applied for a number of jobs.
Yeah.
And it was very obvious. I mean, I'd interview with people that were a third my age. It was very obvious I wasn't going to get the job, even though I could do it.
How long are you going to work? And you'd say, what, 10 years? And they're like, yeah, right.
Well, so over that 4 years, the Lord just took us along. And by the time Thanksgiving came of 2011, I was beginning to wonder, where am I going to go? Because all I had was a little bit of Social Security for my wife and myself. And I did have the small IBM pension coming. So there was just enough there. We were able to pay the bills, but nothing else. And I used up all my 401k that I had previously. So I had, we were down to a couple hundred, maybe $2,000.
That's a setback.
And we had to use everything. We had other things happen family-wise that we had to help out, and that was part of the HELOC. Of course, we had enough in the house to do that. So by the time I got my job with ADC, with Automation Direct, I had at least one mortgage. I was working with another one and a HELOC, fully loaded HELOC. And ADC was one of those people, if you could do your job, they didn't care how old you were. So I was hired at 71. I was just shy of 72.
Wow.
And hopefully my goal was to be able to work there for 10 years. I will retire just shy of 11.
Wow. That's awesome.
I look at it, I remember when I started, I look ahead, how am I going to make it for 10 years? And, the Lord.
And you've regressed. You've become 52 years old. That's what you said.
Yeah, you're right.
That's amazing.
You're right.
So, I think it's interesting, you're describing this situation. I just kind of want to just level set what you've just described. You had a small pension. You were eligible for Social Security, so you obviously took that because you needed it. Couple mortgages, fully loaded out home equity line of credit, a HELOC. And you mentioned something, the Lord always provided.
Yes, he has.
And, one of the names of the Lord is Jehovah Jireh. Amen. He is our great provider. And Dave Ramsey, someone who teaches in this space, I love something he said. He said, I came to know the Lord on my way up, but I got to know him on the way down. Would you say, hey, that's where you really realized, hey,
yes,
this is not just me, I'm utterly reliant?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's a great word. So, early in that process at ADC, I've had the joy, the privilege, there's a lot of words I could use to describe, to be able to come alongside the team members there at your company. And, I talk for 10 to 20 minutes and I say two famous words, maybe three. What do I say? Get fired up or fired up. Everybody knows that I'm going to say it. And then we offer 10, 30-minute coaching appointments. And I get to sit with people like you. And you get to ask questions. We can talk about random topics, which we do all the time. You're a singer. You love Southern gospel. I love Southern gospel. But we also talk about financial stuff. And what I love about it is we don't have to talk about stuff in generalities. We can talk about your situation, your real numbers, your real goals, and talk about how you can get from A to B. And I remember distinctly you having this statement to me that says, I have this goal to pay off the house and to be 100% debt free, do some home improvement projects, make sure everything's in good shape, cars, house, everything, and make it these 10 years. That was your set goal.
That was my goal.
And so, we had these conversations. You, for some reason, were one of the early adopters. You came and met with me. Why did you choose to come meet with me? And did it help, if any? What stood out to you the most?
Well, I liked your message, first of all, okay? And secondly, I thought, from what you were saying and the tools you were showing, that this was a good opportunity. I was in a position now with the company where I could start paying things down and forget about putting things away until everything was paid down. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we started, I guess, what was it, about 8 years ago?
9 years ago now.
9 years ago we
Believe
got
it or not,
started.
9 of those 11 years I've been part of that journey.
And so what I did was all through this, whatever money we had, we also gave our tithe to the Lord, and He honors that. And so we started paying. I dropped my 401k down to 3%.
Enough to get the match.
Enough to get the match. And then I started picking up on my mortgage. The nice thing is that we get quarterly bonuses and then a profit sharing. And I just took all that and dumped it against whatever bills we had. I had a boat, sold the boat and paid off the truck. And so everything we have is free. So this past September, 2 years ago, we made our last mortgage payment.
That's awesome.
And,
I have to applaud that. So tell me how that happened. Did you go into the bank? Did you hire a 4-piece band?
No.
to go in before you a drum line? Like surely that's happening in your head at least.
Yeah.
What happened? Did you
That
go
would've
to
been
the
nice.
bank? Did you just do it online?
Because my mortgage, my mortgage was with SunTrust.
Okay.
And
Also known as Truist now.
Yeah. And so I went in and paid my last payment, got all my paperwork.
So you ask her, hey, I'm here to pay off my mortgage.
Yeah. And I talked to him because I knew the people at our branch well and told them what I was doing. And then I went in and we made the last payment. And,
Please tell me you at least went out to eat
yeah.
to celebrate.
Yes, we did.
There we go. That's awesome.
If I remember, my mind's getting a little bit short sometimes.
There we go. But it's just a great moment. I think it's important, and this is why your story is so important, is there's a lot of people that I meet along the road. I was in Great Falls, Montana recently. I'm going to be in Waterloo, South Carolina this coming weekend. I'll be in Dallas, Texas the next weekend. And every time I'm going to meet several somebodies who say, is it too late for me? And they're 48 or they're 57. And I always just think of you and your story. So, you paid off the house. And I think this is some important information. If you're listening and you're headed towards retirement age, some things that Dave figured out that is things you need to know is that once you reach your full retirement age, whatever that is, it's probably 66 in some months. Pretty soon it'll be for people that are at 67. You are eligible to declare for Social Security, and you can still work a full-time job and earn a full-time income, and it doesn't affect your Social Security wages.
Well, it didn't affect the wages, but I had to pay tax on 85% of it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it allowed me to start chipping away at the mortgage.
Right.
And actually, by the time the last 8 or 10 months, maybe just about a year, I think I was paying 3 times the mortgage payment.
Yeah. And so this is what happens when you get focused, you get a clear plan, and you were able to just hammer on the mortgage. And I think it's so important to share with everybody that once you get started on paying off the mortgage and you're taking all these extra dollars, instead of saving them, you're putting them on the mortgage, you've got to get done paying the mortgage. Because something in your house is eroding, something's falling apart, something needs painted, something needs repairing. And if you dilly-dally, you're not saving money, all the extra money is going to that house, something's going to break and you may end up back in debt again. So you got done paying off the house, and from start to finish, from the day you said, okay, now's the time, to the day you actually paid off the house, how long was that? Was it 8 years, 9 years?
About 8 years.
8 years.
8.5, 9 years.
Did you have a 20-year mortgage, a 30-year note? What did you have?
No, what I did is I had a 15-year mortgage when I started when we bought this house. And when we bought this house, I figured it was going to be the last place we go. So we looked for a house that was maintenance free. Mm-hmm. So I just had, the only wood that was on the house was the deck and the surrounds on the windows. I had the surrounds on the windows replaced with vinyl.
There you go.
Or with
or aluminum or something that doesn't degrade.
Yeah. And we did some work. We had a screen deck put on. We were able to do that. I used the HELOC and paid that off in about 3 months. And but the nice thing was, once I did that, I only had maybe $5,000 savings. My goal was to have $100,000 in savings by the time I retired.
Wow!
Because if I could do that with the Social Security and the IBM piece that I'd have, with everything paid off, I figured we could live fairly comfortably, not extravagant or anything like that.
Right.
But live comfortably enough. And then, of course, you have to take money out of your 401k. So I figured if I did that, I could put that in the savings. And then Joe mentioned the last meeting about the I-bonds.
The I-bonds.
So before the 28th of October, I purchased $10,000 for myself and $10,000 for my wife. And I still have 80 grand left, which I expect
That's awesome.
will be close to 100 by the time I get done.
So they've declared the new interest rate for I-bonds, and you're going to earn over 7.5% overall over that whole time period.
Well, it was 9.6.
9.62, and now it's 6.89%. Mm-hmm. But you'll get that 9.62 for the first 6 months.
Yes.
So that's awesome.
I'll leave it there until we need it.
Until the rate goes bad.
So it can't get any worse than the money market.
That's right. So, it's incredible. You're sharing these very unbelievable details that in 11 years you had a complete turnaround, that you paid off a house, you built up substantial savings. You also did a home improvement project, a substantial one.
Yeah. I have one more to do. So.
You have one more, and you're prepared for that.
Yes.
And so now the day has come where you said, okay, I'm going to retire. Tell me what that feels like to know that you put together. Most people at 68, most people at 71, they're not putting together 10-year plans. Most of them that I know. You put together a 10-year plan. What does it feel like to know that you met and exceeded that, and it's 11 years, and everything that you believed could happen, all of it has come true? How does that feel?
Well, I prayed about it, and I just praise the Lord that he did it.
Yeah.
Every step he made, he's moving me ahead that way. Whether I deserved it or not, no. But
none of us do.
But I have a lot less years left than I have behind me, and I'm looking forward to it.
What's the next 10-year plan?
Going to glory.
There we go. I love it. That's awesome. I'll join you. Maybe not in 10 years, but what is the one thing, if you could go back and tell your 20-something-year-old self, is there any words of wisdom you give them that you say, hey, if I could do it over financially speaking, what is the one thing you would have done different?
I wish I would put $10 a paycheck away.
Where?
Touching it.
Into a IBM stock or?
Well, I couldn't buy IBM stock at that time. $10 a week or $10 a month. But just starting a small savings account and keeping it that way.
Yeah.
But even though we did some of that, I did have some IBM stock. But when I was supposed to go back to IBM in '93, beginning in '93 as a contractor, and then that 1st of January, decided we're not going to bring them back anymore. Mm-hmm. So there was point of times where I had to actually sell that, and I only had 7. Mm-hmm. And then moving to Illinois was, they paid the expenses and everything, but it's not easy to live up there either. Yeah. That house I bought because I knew it had a lot of work on it, and I do have my own woodworking shop and so forth. So I completely remodeled that house inside and out.
Sweat equity.
New kitchen for equity, mm-hmm. And it went up on the market for $400,000. And then the market fell, and Lake County, Illinois, was one of the worst.
Yeah,
ended up selling it for $235.
Gross.
So I made, I didn't really make any money. If you took all what we paid for it, $186, what I put into it and everything else, we didn't make any money.
Yeah, I did one of those. I bought a house for $175, put $60 into it, and sold it for $150. So, but you know what? The Lord is still good to me, and I'm still happy about it. I learned a lot in that lesson. So as we wrap up, I've got a lot of people who listen who have parents who are around your age. I have other people who are listening who are about your age, and they're saying, hey, is it too late for me? Hey, you're a success story. What is the one word of encouragement you would give to those individuals on how to have a conversation, maybe with their parents, that says, hey, there's still some ways for you to be able to get your finances in order?
Well, first of all, don't give up. And like I said, I'm a born again believer, so I let God have his way each step. I'm just thankful that he did.
Yeah.
I know people that have had worse times than I've had, and it could happen tomorrow. Mm-hmm. It could end tomorrow, but don't ever give up.
That's awesome.
I know when I was 65, there was no way I knew I could retire. And when I was 71, when I got the job with ADC, I'm looking at it, I'm 71. Can I make it 8 years, 10 years? That makes me 81. And I'm going to retire just shy of 82. That's 53 in hex. I mean, shy of 83. That's 53 in hex, by the way.
That's some engineering language happening here. I like it.
But do I live another 10 years? I don't know.
But you'll prosper if you do.
I hope the Lord allows that.
That's awesome.
So the only thing I'll do from once I retire is see what the Lord has in front of me and walk.
I love it. I title this Start Late, Finish Wealthy, WELL, because that's what you've done. And you and Sharon, you've kind of modeled in your quiet way, trust in the Lord, have a plan.
Amen.
Proverbs 21:5 says the plans of the diligent. You have to have diligence. A plan without diligence is just wasted time. You put those two together, it says it will lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Our verse for today is from Job 42:12, and I love it because I really feel like it exemplifies what is happening in your life, where it says, the Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part. Would you say that's true for you?
I just read that yesterday and underlined it.
Come on. And we didn't even talk about that verse, did we?
No.
Maybe we need to both go underline it. I highlighted it. Hey, listen, I would love to hear your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, watching on Facebook, I'd love for you to leave a comment congratulating Dave and Sharon on their retirement, a much-deserved one of a plan that started late, and they're finishing well, even finishing wealthy. Our next episode, we're going to talk about how to plan for 2023, and really importantly, with your spouse. It's very important to work together on this stuff. And hey, if you like today's episode, please help us get the podcast to other people. And you can do that by rating the podcast, leaving a review. If you're on YouTube, click the thumbs up button, leave a comment, and click that all-important subscribe button. If you want to be notified as soon as an episode goes live each and every Monday, hit the little bell. It'll notify you. And hey, our podcast is powered by your success. Just like Dave and Sharon's, we want to hear about your success story. If you've implemented one of our tools, one of our tips, share that success story with us. You can email us at info@iwbnin.com. That is info@iwbnin.com. Or you can share your success story with any of our social media platforms. Hey, until next week, hey, remember, it's never too late. Make sure that you apply this, have the conversation you need to have. This may be a great conversation to have at the Thanksgiving table this year with those that you love most. Hey, until next Monday, we'll see you. Have a great week and get fired up.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Monday Money Tip Podcast, presented by I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit iwbnin.com. We'll catch you next time.